Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice Simple Steps for Showing Up. I am grateful you are here. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I am getting after every second of every day. The question is, are you? Are you doing those little things that build momentum? Are you doing those simple steps that we have discussed for the last 35 weeks or so, however long it has been? Have you stepped over the quarters in the road when you are doing these affirmations of, I am a money magnet, I attract money easily and effortlessly, yet you walk down the street and step over the penny? It is time to turn around, bend over, and pick up the penny, and easily and effortlessly receive those little things. A big gargantuan rope, those things that hold anchors on big ships, or a tow rope to tow a car. If you would only comprehend and realize that is a lot of little threads. Threads so small, in fact, if I were to hold it up in front of this camera, you wouldn't even see it. It is the little things that you stack every day that build into the big, massive rope, capable of withstanding all types of strenuous torture. Where in your life are you missing the little things and saying you're too good for them? After all, it is those little things that build the momentum into big things. The saying goes, stack the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. Too often we get stuck at looking for dollars and missing the pennies. In the case of manufacturing, you have a step analysis, literally counting somebody's steps. So often we try and move the needle by taking big action in big things that save a lot of time. But in reality, it's saving steps 1 second at a time that adds up to be huge gains in time saving. There was a time once in my life I was in a laboratory and I was charged with increasing efficiency in a digestion process. This digestion process took about 65 to 70 minutes to do. And over the course of about a month and a half of saving 1 or 2 seconds here and there in the process, I trimmed that thing down to 45 minutes, saving approximately 25 minutes a run. Well, on a really good day, there'd be 4 runs. That's 1 hour saved each day. In your life, where can you save seconds? Where can you build momentum? Where can you gain stride? That was a little preface before we get started. On to getting started. The conversation. We all have a time in our life where that one conversation changed everything. It pivoted you into who you are today. And if you have yet to have that conversation, it will come in some form or fashion. I'm going to take you back about 4 or 5 years ago. I was on my way to the office. I was going into the office about 7 a.m. It was normal for my boss, who was the president, to call me at about 5:30 a.m. because he knew I was on the treadmill. He'd catch me while I was walking on the treadmill at the gym. My phone would ring. See, it's him because he's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. Say, hey, are you on the treadmill? Yep. Cool. I got a few minutes. Let's chat. It was unusual on my drive at about 7:30 in the morning for him to call me. And I got this call and he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm driving. He said, awesome. We need to have a conversation that neither of us want to have. And he proceeded to rail me to the point that it was difficult for me to breathe. In no fewer words, He effectively said, you have a job, you are sucking at your job, you will either do better in these capacities or you will find the door. Keep in mind, I had been in this position. I was the VP of operations and quality at a laboratory across multiple states. I was supposed to build a department and was not doing as good of a job as he knew I could do. In reality, I thought I was giving 100% effort. I was working 14 to 16 hour days at the time, trying to correct these departments. 3 departments, actually. And I was putting energy into one and not as much energy into the other. And it was the other that needed more. I made the wrong call. I was in the wrong. I needed a kick to the teeth, and I didn't know it. My boss, my first mentor, he knew me since I was 9. At this point in time, I was about 28 or 29. He knew me for more or less 20 years. He was as much of a mentor and a boss as he was a dad to me. And he tore me down. Smashed everything I thought I was. And to this day, I am so grateful for it. See, I look back on that conversation and realize it was his love for me that brought him the strength to have that call. After that 30-minute call, I cried in my office for almost 5 hours. I called my wife. I called my brother, who was our other vice president, was at the time, still is, and told him what happened. And I sobbed for nearly 5 hours in my office. I was on my knees most of the time, asking God why. If you go back to previous episodes, you learn the reason why asking why is a stupid question. To reiterate for those that haven't listened to that episode yet, when you ask why, it presupposes the listener receives the answer and agrees with it for it to be correct. The rest of them, who, what, when, where, how, those are all statements of fact. Why is not necessarily a statement of fact, but is highly opinionated and may or may not be correct in the answer. Avoid the question why. But back onto the topic, I asked why. What can I learn from this experience? On him telling me I suck at my job, to do better, which I already thought I was giving 100+%, or quit. One of the options. I thought I was giving maximum effort, and I was, in the wrong direction. We're going to fast forward several years. This was only the end of last year. This is about November of last year, 2022. I was with my wife, and I was reflecting on this conversation that I had with my mentor. And I was trying to move the needle forward in my life and in our life, our family's life. And it dawned on me, I had this thought. Have you considered to talk to your wife and have her consider some different scenarios? We had always talked about how we would do anything. I know you can relate to this. I will do anything. I will take on another job. I will work more hours. I will grind my nose off. I will grind my teeth off, working tirelessly. I will leave before the sun rises. I'll get home after the sun sets, and then I'll do another job after that. I will get no sleep, and I will just keep pushing. And that's the phase we were in, doing those things, living in this house. At the time, financially, we weren't able to do it anymore. And I went to my wife, and I went to her and said, have you considered you are the one holding us back? You must understand that my wife and I don't ever use the word you. Very rarely do we use the word you. We always use the word we because we are a team. We win and we learn together. If the dishes weren't done, we didn't do them. If the toys weren't picked up, we didn't do them. If the house was a mess, we didn't clean it. There is no you and there is no I. There is only we. And in this particular case, I felt the impression to tell her, have you considered you are holding us back? I'd like you to think about how that was received. Think about your wife. If you told her that she was the one holding you back, she was the missing link or the broken link in the chain, how was that received? And I proceeded to tell her, we've discussed we would do anything. We would get another job. We would get more jobs, more work, do more. Have you yet to consider, or have you ever considered doing less? Have you considered moving into an apartment from this amazing home up on the hill in the gated community? Have you considered moving back into my parents' house? You must understand that is a massive kick to the ego. Stepping backwards where we always already were. We've already gone through that challenge. Are you willing to go back to that challenge in order to leapfrog forward? And it took a couple days, I'll be honest. She was pissed at me. Rightfully so. And then she came back and said, you're right. I had never considered going backwards in order to go forwards. I only considered grinding more forwards, crawling if we have to, but moving forward. I never considered stepping back in order to go forward. It was at that point we moved back into my parents' house and then moved into the beautiful home that we're in now and have the relationships that we have now that we would have not had otherwise. The one conversation, that conversation, do you have the guts, the fortitude, the grit to be the delineator, to be the person to have the conversation that needs to be had? You must understand both of these conversations in my life that I will never forget had a purpose. They had a reason. There wasn't a means to an end. There was a lesson to be taught. This was not to tear down my wife to be a jerk. This was to move forward together as a team. And as a team, sometimes we have different roles, right? And sometimes she's the coach and sometimes I'm the coach. And sometimes the coach needs to have really difficult conversations with the team. Are you strong enough to have that conversation with your wife, your kids, your subordinates, your boss, those people around you to which you have a relationship with? Are you willing to have that conversation? And also, are you willing to receive that kind of conversation? Willing to step back, swallow your pride, and learn? Those conversations are pivotal in your life. For those that have had them, you know exactly what I mean. But I encourage you to build, like I talked about at the very beginning of this episode, with little things, little strings to build this rope, to create this fortitude that when this conversation comes, whether you are the one to have it or you are the one to receive it, that you can stand firm, triumphant, and progress through, leapfrogging you forward. That is what I've got for you guys today. I am grateful that you spent your precious time being with me. You must understand that you have the most precious asset you'll never own in your possession, your time. And you spent that here with me, to have this conversation. So I would encourage you to continue to have this conversation. And if you need to have that one conversation, to do so immediately with urgency. Share this episode with your friends, your family. Download it for future listenings. Leave me a review on Apple, on Google, on Spotify. Let me know your thoughts. Have this be a two-way street. Follow me on social. As always, my handle is Mr. Brad Draper on all platforms. Let's continue this conversation. I love you guys. Bye.